So I was on holiday, enjoying the amazing Asturian food, when I saw a new post pop up from MCDM. Crows is a game I've been keeping my eye on for a while. It's made by the same team who made Raw Steel, but instead of being about heroes, it's about dungeon delving, and dying a lot. You're gonna die a lot. Lucky for me, the people I'm staying with here are super cool. Say up hi everyone. So I got everything ready, and last night I ran Crows for the first time. But before I explain what Crows is, I have to do something new for the channel, and thank Triglav Games for sponsoring the video. Triglav are releasing a new Kickstarter. Think of it a little bit like Year 2 for MCDM, their big Kickstarter. There's a lot of different cool things in there. Until the last villain dies, a second echelon adventure avenging the last Good King. They've already hit their stretch goal, so this adventure is coming to the Codex, and anyone who backs is going to get that for free. Rocks Fall, this is the one I'm personally most excited about. This is dynamic terrain arenas for you to use in your campaign. There's also Upper Worlds Beware, a pack designed to help you run in the timescape, and an adventure to show you how to use it. Murder of the Corvenwights, a crowfolk ancestry, and monsters, and it's all smushed together into a lovely adventure for you to use. A grave matter, more undeads, more skeletons, what's to complain about, and another adventure. The Kickstarter has already reached its stretch goals, so if you back, you will get the products listed, and you can find a link in the description and the pinned comment. Now on with the video. What is Crows? Crows is the next TTRPG from MCDM, the team behind Draw Steel, that I'm assuming you know about for this channel. It's designed by the lead designer of Draw Steel, James Injocasso, and it is based on Draw Steel, but it's not Draw Steel. The way I think they did it is I think they took Draw Steel and they were like, we don't need this, we don't need this, we don't need this, change this. If it wasn't made by them, it would probably be Crows powered by Draw Steel, but it's not Draw Steel. But it does have some things in common. So it has the power roll, but instead of in Draw Steel, the results are kind of T1, good, T2, great, T3, perfect, and then a crit. In Crows, it's T1, you fail, T2, you did okay, and T3, you did good. This means you can miss in this game, and you can have critical failures. This represents that your character in Crows isn't some crazy hero, superhero person. You're just a normal dude who is having a very bad time and needs some money fast, so you're going adventuring. When you start, you don't make some big elaborate character. You roll 2d6 and you get a backstory, and that's literally everything you need. Your equipment, your stamina, your stats, your traits, right? Because this is a game about playing normal people and you're going to die a lot. So you want character creation to be pretty fast so you can just do it, right? People are going to die. For example, when I was testing to figure out how this worked, I made this hunter. I rolled 2d6 and I got the hunter. So he has 5 stamina. There's going to be a lot of dying when I say stuff like that. But that's not all his health. He also has a backpack with 10 slots in it. And when he gets stabbed after being on 0, he's going to use his backpack to shield himself. And then he can't carry as much stuff without being slowed down. Which is bad, because in Crows, you get your experience points and you get more traits and to level up by getting gold from the dungeon and stuff from the dungeon. So if your backpack is broken, you can't carry stuff, you can't level up, it's bad news for Crow. Also, Crows need to carry stuff to use because they're not as powerful, right? They're not going to be able to, walk in there and be like, make peace with your god. They're not a Fury, they're just going to be there so I have a knife and I'm going to bonk him on the head real hard. Also, if you're coming from Draw Steel, you'll notice that the standard bonus is only a +1, unlike Draw Steel's +2. It's not a class-based game, which I think for a lot of TTRPG players is going to feel really, really weird. It's a trait-based game. You have traits which allow you to do stuff and a little tree that you follow, and you get those traits by spending the experience points you get for bringing gold out of the dungeon, right? So we start off with a character, we roll a character, we get traits, we adventure into the dungeon, we come back, we get more traits, we adventure into the dungeon. But that raises the question, why would we do all this? And that's because in Crows, there's something called your town. When you bring your gold back from the town, you can pay to upgrade your town. And this is kind of the thing that I think it's the thing that makes me most excited for this game. I'm not a big OSR person. I know this exists in other games, but it's the idea that you as a party, you're not actually really playing a party, you're playing a town who's trying to survive this apocalypse. And so even if your character dies, you can play another character who maybe learnt who studied at the church that dude built in his previous life, right? So that's the kind of meta progression, is actually not really characters. It's like XCOM, you don't want your heroes, you don't want your soldiers to die, but it's gonna happen. So that's it. The game is still very, very new, and I don't really know what's gonna happen yet, so I'm recording this before we run, so you're gonna be joined in a second by post-playing Frederica, who's gonna introduce you to the blood library. So I feel very, very mixed about that. I think I'm not really the target audience. I'm not a huge dungeon crawly person. And I don't think I had the right group, because I think the group are a little bit more RP types. But also I think the rules are... in places, they're really, really good. So as someone who knows the draw steel rules, I got up to speed with the combat really quickly, and it meant we were going fast, right? We had a very experienced group. I mean, like, everyone there has played loads of TTRPGs. Like, I've only been playing TTRPGs for 10 years. Like, that made me a baby at this group, right? Because Maya and David, the people I'm staying with, they've run loads and loads and loads and loads, right? The people I've been staying with have run loads and loads and loads. So we got up to speed with the combat really fast, and that worked really well with the dungeon turns that people were just... the combat was fast. You could get through an entire combat, 3 rounds of combat in like 10 minutes, which coming from Draw Steel was kind of mind-boggling. I forgot how fast combat can be in a simple system, right? But there were bits that were rough. Like, overland travel, truly diabolically not good. Like, they would just... the way I'd say it is, it was like, you would... oh, we'll let the motorbike go past. You would let the people... The way overland travel worked is each person took on a roll, and then they made rolls. And then they had to make another roll, and then I'd make rolls. And it just wasn't very fun. A lot of rolls, and the rolls in this game are pretty mean, so you're nearly always getting bad things. It just feels like the players are being, from the moment the game starts, the players are just being penalised for playing the game. And there's no way of avoiding it. There's no way of going, I'm not going to travel overland, or we're not going to travel through the miasma, because the miasma is everything. And I think the thing we discussed, because I can give you guys my thoughts, right, because this isn't the latest for feedback where they just want you to tell them what's wrong, but I think that it could work quite well if it was like, oh, you know, the players... miasma is like a score that ticks up, and bad rolls slowly tick up miasma until something really bad happens. Instead of it just being like, oh, you just instantly, the moment you step outside, you have a -1 to everything until you go inside. I mean, that's fine. That sets the idea that you don't want to be outside, but it kind of means that you, like, don't want to be outside at all in this way, which the game just isn't fun. Like, after 2 days of it, I just skipped over it because I was just bored of, like, rolls, and it takes a while. Like, the rest of the game is really, really fast and really, really smooth, and this is just like roll, 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 roll. But it kind of takes time because you want to describe what it's like traveling over land and stuff happening. It's just, and there's weather and there's all this stuff, and I don't know, like, the game is about dungeon crawling, so why do we have these rules about overland travel? Like, I get that that's part of it. Let's get the better camera angle. But, like, I get that that's part of it. I get that you need overland travel rules to get to the place, but either make them complex enough to be, like, either make them more complex and a game instead of just being rolls. Like, if they're just going to be random rolls, then, like, the same thing could just be achieved, honestly, the same effect could just be achieved by saying, for every day of travel, you tick down one set of rations, and you are boned while you're outside. Okay, we roll for random encounters, the same thing would happen. You don't need this weather stuff. It's just, it doesn't feel like a thing where you're making decisions. It just feels like the players are just rolling dice for no reason, right? And I think if I was a brand new player to TTRPGs, I would be pretty into that. But as it stands, not so much. The spellbook system was really, really good. I liked the system of magic being a thing that you find, and then you can cast, and then eventually it will run out of juice for that day, and you get rid of it, and there's kind of this building backlash thing. But it felt pretty strong in places. I don't know. It didn't help that, so our 3 people, we had an archer, we had a knight, and we had a pyromancer, which I think was a pretty good set of roles. And the archer felt terrible because the short bow is, like, not good enough in combat, and so the short bow was doing no damage, and they were rolling badly. And the knight could do more because they were taking hits and able to deflect them. That was cool, but the magic user was just, like, doing all of the damage, and they nearly died, so it was kind of okay. But it had the classical D20 fantasy issue of the magic user just being OP if they're alive, and so I don't know. Maybe they'd die more. Maybe if we played more, they'd have died. They had taken 2 wounds. They were dying. I think I said the other thing I felt was the avenge we did the blood library. It wasn't as hand-holdy as I would like. Like, I get that it's a playtest and they don't know what they need to hold your hand through, but there was only a couple of places where it gave, like, advice and advice of what you should do, and that felt a bit scuffed. Like, I want it to tell me what to do. I want to be told, like, oh, do this and do this and do this. But To give a rundown of the session, because I guess some of you will want to hear about that. So we made characters. That took like 20 minutes, which was a nice change coming from something like Draw Steel, where it takes a long time. 20 minutes to make characters is pretty good. Everyone rolls a backstory. I got them to do that beforehand. Me and one of the other players printed out the inventory sheets and all the cards, so they had all of that. The inventory system is amazing. I'll get to that. So we rolled. They rolled that. Then they picked their stats, and then you get your equipment. And then they named their town that they named Katafe. Which was a bit of a joke between everyone. And then so then that was character creation. So we set out on the trip, and we did the rolls, which we did the overland travel rolls, which were good. And they got a random encounter very early on because they had a really bad first day of rolls, which maybe coloured my experience. It was like all tier 1s and all tier 2s, like two tier 1s and a tier 2. So they got this random encounter, and we didn't know yet. Like I knew that it would be deadly, but I didn't know it was like deadly. So they went in against 3 blood creatures in the open, and instantly it was like Jova for them. Like they were just not hitting anything because of the -1 from boned, and they were hitting stuff. So in the end, we got 2.5 rounds in, and it was obvious they were going to die, which didn't help. There was only 3 of them. I think it was later in that I realized that the game is balanced for 4 or 5 like players, as you'd expect. The game is balanced for 4 or 5 players, so like it felt even more deadly, I think, and it felt more a knife's edge. Because there were so few players to take hits, particularly with only 3 of them, I might have put less in. If I was more experienced. Now, having run it, if I only have 3 players again, I'd halve whatever I rolled in the random encounters or something. But they got in, they had the fight, and they were going to die. So I was like, look, we went back, and I was like, you imagine this is what would have happened if you had the fight. And that helped them learn how scary fighting was, and kind of learned to be fearful of that. And so then we did another day of like the overland travel, and it was boring. And then they got to the ruined tower, and they had quite a lot of fun exploring the ruined tower. And I don't know if I can say that the system is good because my players were really engaged with a ruined tower and a well. They did their part by being like engaged in like exploring the well and exploring the ruined tower and finding stuff, and they liked finding the treasure and things, but like you can do that in literally any system. Like I don't need a system to do that. So I don't know if I can say that the system is good because my players were exploring. Like I literally, that scene at the tower, I could do without a system. You could do that with a coin and like just a coin and descriptions, right? So I can't say that I would say the system is good. Maybe I'm taking for granted the skills system from Draw Steel and how good that is, but that's it's not like some crazy inventive system. And I can't say that Crow's good because of that. Then they continued the walk, and by that point I just decided that to get to the thing, we'd already been playing for an hour. Like, it took us an hour to get to the ruined tower, which was just a long time to, like, not do anything. That didn't feel like progress, because it was like, we're going to go to the blood library, and, I don't know, like, it took a while. And my group we were playing fast. In another group, that could have taken 3-4 hours, easily. Very, very easily. So, we went to the blood library. So then I cut to the blood library. I was just like, I'm over this, right? I don't care if they're meant to be starving or whatever, like, who cares? And the blood library, it took the player a second to realise that, like, oh, you have to get across the blood pool like this, and they come up with some different ideas. And I definitely played the dungeon turns wrong, because I was a little too lenient with not starting the timer and stuff, and being worried that I was, like, punishing them. And I guess now I should have. Now I know that it works really well to just work well. I just figured it out too late. And so they got in, and because they're all experienced players, they understood the dungeon time assignment, and they were, like, going through the rooms fast. They were sneaking around, they were grabbing things, they were interacting with all the things. And they got upstairs, and they found one of the spoilers, I guess, but they got upstairs and they were sneaking around, and I really wish the book had told me how sneaky they needed to be to sneak past things. It didn't feel like the book was like, oh, they can sneak past things, and I was like, well, like, what does that mean? Like, do I have to be making rolls? Because if I have to be making rolls and they have to be getting tier 3s, they're not going to be sneaking past things. Like, these 3 characters are not all going to roll tier 3s, and they're not all going to roll tier 2s, so I don't know, I would have loved a group test there. I wish I'd used the group test from Draw Steel, but I didn't want to use something from another system, even if it's a very similar system. Group tests aren't in the rules as far as I can see. Unless I miss something. Maybe they are in the rules and I'm talking out my ass, but you know. Someone will say in the comments. So yeah, they stuck around, they found the chest, they found this like locked cabinet, and they realized it was trapped. They went into another room and they found the chest that key's in. and they got the chest out, and then they unlocked it, but they managed to pick the lock open, the archer did, but the blood creature C came out of the blood and was like, I'm gonna eat you, and they had a fight with that. And that fight was really, really fun, because it felt like the magic user might die, because they got into melee to use their fire hands ability, because their lance had depreciated before, so that was the only one they had left. So they got in and went with the fire, and that was fun. It was really fun, actually. I think that combat was the system shining, because it was like all the good bits of draw steel, except for the fact that because they've made it that tier 1s is a failure, they've just brought back the do I take my turn dice. But it's kind of worse, because in D&D, it's the do I get to turn my turn dice, but normally with something and the bonus action. Whereas with this, you ain't grabbing shit as a player, because you don't want to be grabbing it. I think maybe they could have been doing better with that, but you're not really knocking things back either, because it just doesn't... There's not the same incentives to do those things, I felt like. And so, I don't know, maybe with more experience it would be different, but it felt very D20 fantasy. Like, you know, if we'd been rolling a D20, I honestly don't feel like it would have been much different. The tier system was not looking good. Tier systems play to their strengths when every tier result is an interesting result. But the problem here was that, like, when it's just damage or no damage, when it's just damage or... Oh, am I holding this wrong? When it's just damage or no damage, it's not interesting to have a failure, right? Because it's just, nothing happens. Okay, cool. But if something happens, we get damage. It just doesn't, there wasn't, because it felt like tactical play was the thing that got you through. In here, combat was luck of the draws. And that's fine, you're trying to avoid combat, but you are going to end up in combat quite a lot. And I wish that the tactics played better in combat. Like, if the combat was as good as the draw steel combat is for draw steel, I could see a world where, like, dungeon crawling, the whole thing is, like, done tactically with you moving around on the grid, and that would be fine. Because in draw steel, combat is really, really fun. If you like draw steel combat, you just want to do it all the time. And here, the combat was just luck. It was just dice rolls again. And so a lot of the game right now is just dice rolls, dice rolls, dice rolls, dice rolls. But yeah, they killed the monster, partly because the magic user got some good rolls, and the knight got some good rolls, and the archer stood there, because that's how the balance was working in our group. And then they like, the blood creature was there, and they killed it, and then they opened up the box, and they got all the loot, and at that point they said, well, all our back box slots are filled up, so we're going to leave. And they left, and they went back to the horse, and then we didn't do the overland travel, because it was getting late, and again, I wasn't interested in doing more overland travel, because we'd already been in the dungeon for like 45 minutes, because they were very, very fast, because they were encouraged by the dungeon turns thing. So we went back to the town, and they got their XP, and they got like 500 XP each, because they got all of their treasure in the first dungeon turn, so extra bonus points. So 500 XP each is good. They all would have leveled up and they would have all got like improved skills and stuff and traits. So it would be, I really like the progression system. The town system looks super fucking cool. I like the idea that you're playing a town, because I think that helps with the idea of like your character dying all the time. It's like you're not having to play is it working? Hello. Yeah. I don't know how long that cut out for, but like I like the meta progression of the town. I like the idea of it. I don't know how to feel about the trait trees. We didn't interact with them yet, but I don't know. Is a trait tree really that difference from draw steel? You get to pick 2 options at each level, right? Maybe it will allow you to build stuff. I haven't looked at the rules enough to know if multiclassing is a thing. I do like the idea, though, that your skills are kind of modular. So it's like, what did you pick up? And then you'll probably pick traits to use the stuff that you have. And that could be quite cool. A lot of, like, what makes your character good is the equipment they have, not their skills and their traits. That felt good. It definitely felt like normal people who happened to be adventuring and happened to have a sword. So yeah, overall, I'm kind of fine with it. I would say, let me clarify this. This will be my ending statement. I played Draw Steel in 2020, in like November 2024, is that right? Yeah, it's 2026, last year, 2025. Yeah, November 2024. And when I played Draw Steel in 2024, it was before heroic resources were kind of the way they are now. And I played the Tavern in Fall of Blackbottom, if you know it, as that. And when I played that playtest, I didn't like it. I didn't check back in with Draw Steel for like 6 months. This channel is delayed for 6 months because that playtest was like this one, where it was just that session of Draw Steel was just fine. It just felt fine, right? And every time I've ever played an playtest an MCDM thing, it's felt like playing a kind of just a D&D supplement, right? Where it's just like, oh, this is fine. It's clearly not polished fully. It's clearly just fine. And if I didn't know how good Flee Mortals and Draw Steel and Where Evils Live were, I would be like, okay, this is good. This is like what you'd expect for something to be. But because I know how good they are, I'm like, nah, this doesn't feel it, right? And this was a lot better. The two other OSR games I've played, I both played with new DMs, so they're fair comparisons. And Shadow Dark I actively disliked because it was all of the bits I didn't like about D&D mixed with no new bits that I liked. The lanterns for 30 minutes rule was like, oh, it's been 30 minutes, we just light a new lantern. Okay, moving on. And Mothership, I was like, this is just like generic D&D with an adventure attached. And so both of those neither of those did things. This didn't feel like D&D, but it had a lot of the same issues. So I'm interested to see if they will be able to fix those issues, or if it's just going to be more of the same, really. If you enjoyed this video, YouTube's about to show you two different videos. One of them is a Draw Steel video, and it talks about my first 100 sessions with the game. And the other one is a video from my channel that YouTube thinks you will enjoy. And could you leave me a comment on whether you're interested in crows? It would help me out a lot if I knew if you wanted more content like this. I think I probably will make videos about crows regardless, but I want to know if I should focus on it. Should it be like at all? So yeah, leave me a crow in the... Is there a crow emoji? If there's a crow emoji, leave me crow emojis. If you got this far, definitely leave a crow emoji, because it's useful to know that people get this far in the video. But yeah, I hope you all enjoyed that very rambly end to this video. So yeah, have a good evening, people. Bye-bye.